A funeral quiet has descended upon Ukraine's home front, as the government in Kyiv has taken the final desperate step in its struggle for national survival. Through an emergency parliamentary act that has overridden all previous exemption, the Ukrainian military has begun the systematic conscription of men up to the age of 60. This is no longer a limited call for specialists or volunteers. It is a full-scale mobilization of the nation's father and grandfather. The decision, born of staggering casualties in the east and the looming collapse of entire sections of the front, represents the exhaustion of Ukraine's primary fighting age population. The formation of these new silver battalions has sent a ripple of profound grief and resignation through Ukrainian society and has served as the final catalyst for a dramatic and high-stakes confrontation between the United States and Russia, culminating in a third and seemingly final ultimatum from President Donald Trump, which Moscow has met with open and utter contempt. The societal impact of this new conscription wave has been immediate and devastating. In cities across central and western Ukraine, factories have fallen silent as their most experienced foremen and engineers have been handed draft notice. Fields are being tended primarily by women and teenagers, as the men who form the backbone of the agricultural workforce have been sent to hastily organized training camps. The loss of this generation of skilled labor is a catastrophic blow to an economy that was already in ruins. The new Secretary of Labor for the United States, Lori Chavez Durame, released a statement expressing deep alarm, noting that a nation that sends its grandfathers to the front line is not just fighting a war, it is erasing its own future, hollowing out the very knowledge base and mentorship required for any post-war recovery. The human cost is visible in the tearful goodbyes at train stations and in the strained faces of the older recruits, men with a lifetime of experience in civilian trades who are now being taught how to field strip a rifle and survive an artillery barrage. This act of national desperation has proven to be the single most unpopular decision of President Zelensky's tenure, providing a powerful weapon to his political enemies and giving moral justification to the military officers who have been whispering about the need for a change in leadership. The argument from these dissenting factions is now stark and simple. The government has failed to achieve a strategic victory and is now resorting to sacrificing the nation's elders in a futile attempt to delay the inevitable. The policy is seen not as a sign of strength, but as the last gasp of a failed strategy, making the political atmosphere in Kyiv more explosive than at any point since the invasion began. It was this news that reportedly caused President Donald Trump to erupt in fury. According to White House insiders, the president viewed the image of elderly Ukrainian men being led away to war as a personal affront and a complete failure of the international community's approach to the conflict. He reportedly told his national security team that the situation had become a global disgrace and that he would not preside over a policy that sends grandfathers to a slaughterhouse. This emotional and decisive reaction led directly to the issuing of his third ultimatum to Moscow. The first two warnings were seen as diplomatic probes, but this one was presented as a personal line in the sand. A formal diplomatic note was delivered to the Russian ambassador containing a single non-negotiable demand: a total cessation of all offensive military operations in Ukraine and the immediate agreement to enter unconditional peace negotiations within a 10-day period. To give the ultimatum teeth, President Trump authorized two specific and severe threats. Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent was dictated to finalize plans for what has been dubbed a financial neutron bomb. This plan would involve using the full power of the U.S. Treasury to blacklist any bank or corporation in the world that process transactions for Russian oil and gas, effectively attempting to shut off Moscow's primary source of hard currency overnight. Simultaneously, Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth was ordered to present an operational plan for the establishment of American air superiority over designated humanitarian corridors in western Ukraine. While publicly framed as a mission to protect aid convoys, it would be a direct military challenge, daring the Russian Air Force to interfere and risking immediate direct combat between American and Russian pilots. The Russian response was a masterclass in calculated insolence. It came not from a low-level spokesperson, but from Russia's ambassador during a specially convened sessions of the United Nations Security Council. Speaking with a calm, deliberate tone, the ambassador stated, "The Russian Federation does not conduct its foreign policy by stopwatch, nor does it respond to threats born of frustration and domestic political pressure. The terms for the conclusion of our special military operation are known. They have not changed. This new deadline is of no concern to us." The message was clear. Russia viewed the ultimatum not as a credible threat, but as a sign of American panic. The strategic calculus in the Kremlin is that President Trump, for all his bluster, is more terrified of a direct US-Russia war than they are, and that he is issuing these threats precisely because he sees that Ukraine is on the verge of collapse, and he desperately wants to avoid that outcome happening on his watch. A deafening silence has now fallen from Moscow. The Kremlin has not commented further, treating the ultimatum as if it were beneath their notice. The 10-day clock is now ticking, and the pressure is entirely on President Trump. He has publicly cornered himself, issuing a direct challenge that his adversary has openly scoffed at. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has reportedly provided a stark assessment to the president, stating with high confidence that Putin will not yield and that he believes Trump will bluff. This has left the administration facing a cataclysmic choice. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is now engaged in a frantic last-ditch effort to find some face-saving diplomatic off-ramp, but none appears to be available. The president is left with two options at the end of the 10 days. Either he initiates an economic and military confrontation with a nuclear armed power that could spiral into World War III, or he does nothing, revealing his ultimatum as a hollow threat and suffering a humiliating geopolitical defeat that would cripple his presidency. The tragic decision to send Ukraine's grandfathers to war has now triggered a global crisis of the highest order, a direct test of will between two world leaders, with the peace of the entire world hanging in the balance. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel. And so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to World Global Conflict, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first ones on me. But if you have watched this show before, it's like you are a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build this show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.